When the door creaked open in the dead of night, the house stood eerily quiet. No tears, no cries, just the heavy hum of the street lamp outside casting long shadows on the hallway. Inside, or rather, in the space where life should have been, there was only a small, trembling figure standing, clutching a letter with edges curled and ink smudged. What followed would unravel far more than anyone could have imagined. If this story shook you, make sure to subscribe to Cold Case Secrets, where we uncover the truth behind the world's darkest mysteries. It happened in the late summer of 2014, in a quiet American suburb of Raleigh, North Carolina. The kind of place where lawns were tidy, neighbors waved as they pulled into driveways, and children rode bikes until dusk without a second thought. In the quiet neighborhood of Oakwood Estates, 9-year-old Amanda Ray was known simply as Mandy to the few friends she had. She was slight, with wide brown eyes and a shy grin. Her days were filled with school lunches and hopscotch, with yo-yo tricks and fairy tale dreams. She lived with her designated guardian, her Aunt Evelyn Ray, who had become her caretaker after Mandy's parents had died in a car crash 2 years prior. Evelyn seemed like the perfect guardian. She was calm, resourceful, and she told Mandy often how lucky she was that they had each other. The house greeted you on the first floor with soft pastel wallpaper, porcelain figurines on display, and the hum of an old air conditioner. On Sunday mornings, Evelyn baked blueberry muffins. Sometimes Mandy helped, stirring batter with sticky fingers and giggling when flour floated into the air like soft dust. And yet, beneath the perfectly trimmed hedges and polite waves, something was off. The lights in the house flickered at odd hours. Evelyn would lock the door, even if the back gate was open. And Mandy, though cheerful in the daylight, often seemed quietly fearful when asked where her parents were, or why she sometimes wore the same clothes for days. Those details, small though they were, would later define a mystery far deeper than abandonment. One Tuesday evening, just after dinner, Evelyn told Mandy she was going away for a few days. She said it was for business. She gave Mandy a hug, kissed her forehead, and told her to stay inside except for school the next morning. Evelyn promised she would be back Sunday. Mandy nodded, understanding only partly, and watched as her aunt backed out of the driveway under the glow of the street lamp, the tires humming a farewell. That night, Mandy did not sleep well. She woke at 2:37 a.m., sensing someone's shadow in the hallway. The lamp outside cast an elongated silhouette across the wall. She crept from her bed and peeked. The back door was open. She closed it quietly, locked the knob, and returned to her covers, her heart thumping so loud she thought it might wake the neighbor's dog. The next morning, school went by as usual. But after lunch, when she arrived home, the house was silent. Evelyn wasn't there. No note. No explanation. The television was turned on mute, and the muffins she'd begun yesterday sat on the counter, half finished. Mandy felt a knot form in her stomach. She called Evelyn's mobile with no answer. She tried the landline dead. Hours passed. The shadows stretched across the floor. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, the sun dipped lower. When the neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, came by to drop off some cookies, she'd done this often for Evelyn, she found the door unlocked and the house dark. She called Mandy's name. Mandy answered from the living room, clutching her backpack. Mrs. Henderson suggested they wait at her house until Evelyn returned. Mandy agreed, but something in the air shifted. The waiting stretched into days. When Sunday came, then Monday, and still no Evelyn, no word, no footsteps on the porch, the neighbors began to whisper, "Have you seen Evelyn? Is the house empty? Is Mandy okay?" The police were called. At first, the missing person alert was for Evelyn. But soon enough, the focus shifted. Because the child was left behind. Abandoned, at least that's what it seemed. The system was activated. Social workers, child protection investigators, local media. The story made headlines. 9-year-old left alone in suburban home, one paper read. Yet something more twisted lurked beneath the surface. The house had secrets. Detective Marcus Levin had seen many cases over his 20-plus years in the department of the Raleigh Police Department. But this one felt different. The street looked normal. The house looked normal. But the absence of anything overt told him everything. The muffins left on the counter. The open back door. A backpack full of school books. An empty chair at the table. He met Mandy in a small, softly lit room at the Child Protection Unit. She sat on a little chair, legs swinging, clutching a stuffed rabbit. Her eyes were wide, and when he asked her what happened, she whispered, "Aunt Eve said she'd be back Sunday." That was it. He asked if she remembered Evelyn's phone number. She half remembered. He asked if Evelyn had ever said anything strange, or anyone had come by late at night. She shrugged. The detective frowned. The Missing Person Division began combing through Evelyn's last known movements. Her phone pinged at a cell tower in Wilmington, North Carolina, about 120 miles away on the night she left. Then nothing. Her car was still in the driveway. Her suitcase is missing. Her bank account is untouched. Surveillance from a nearby convenience store showed her walking in about an hour before the ping, purchasing a coffee, and then leaving with a man. That man, the footage revealed, drove away in a truck. The plate was blurred. At the house, forensic teams found a letter tucked beneath the mattress of Mandy's bed. The paper was wrinkled, folded many times, the writing faint. It read, "I'm sorry. I couldn't be the person she deserved." Signed simply, E.R. Forensic testing showed the ink was done recently. The handwriting matched samples from Evelyn's documents. The letter changed the focus. Evelyn hadn't just disappeared, she had abandoned the child. When the story reached the local news, the community erupted. Volunteers combed the neighborhood. Fundraisers sprouted. Yet as the investigation deepened, new oddities emerged. Evelyn's social media accounts had been deleted months earlier. Her bank withdrawals were minimal. Records showed she had purchased travel tickets, one to Miami, one to Orlando, then canceled both. Phone records indicated several calls to a burner phone. No one knew to whom. And Mandy's school files revealed something too. A social worker's visit 6 months earlier flagged concerns. Evelyn had told them everything was fine. The official report said the matter was closed. But Detective Levin reopened it. Why had the social worker left? What had Evelyn said? What else was hidden? For 2 weeks, the case remained cold. Then the forensic lab found something unusual. Hair strands under Mandy's mattress, different from Mandy's or Evelyn's. The DNA matched the man in the truck from the convenience store footage. But that man was still unidentified. He had vanished. Investigators traced Evelyn's last known credit card usage to none. They traced her mobile phone no signals after the burner phone was tossed into a trash bin in Wilmington. Investigators dug into Evelyn's past. She'd lived quietly in Oakwood Estates for a few years, quietly enough not to raise suspicion. Yet her guardianship papers were odd. The court file was sealed. The judge involved was no longer on the bench and could not be found. The legal record simply stated that Evelyn assumed permanent guardianship of Mandy after her parents' death. But no hearings were noted. No visitation logs. No record of a transition period. The building suspense pressed in. The investigators realized that Evelyn likely staged her disappearance to mislead everyone. Was she truly the aunt? Was someone else behind this? As they asked the questions, the letter's phrasing haunted them. I couldn't be the person she deserved. What did that mean? Just when the trail seemed to end, a breakthrough. A janitor at a storage unit facility in Wilmington recognized Evelyn. He remembered her because she'd rented a unit 6 months earlier just before her social worker visit. The unit was empty when investigators opened it, but inside were remains of moving boxes, so the tape peel was still crisp. Among them was a folder with Mandy's school records, guardianship papers, and what appeared to be a flight itinerary to Mexico, all canceled, unused. Inside the folder was another letter, brief but chilling. Everything happens because of her. She must stay silent. It carried no signature. The envelope was burnt at the edges. The handwriting did not match Evelyn's. Investigators realized this folder belonged to someone else. Someone forced Evelyn. Someone hijacked this story. Meanwhile, Mandy remained in foster care, safe but silent. She drew pictures of a house, the front door open, a shadow in the hallway, the stuffed rabbit she held tight. She drew Evelyn's car parked in the driveway a long time ago. On one drawing was the figure of a man, faceless, behind the house. The social workers noticed, every time Mandy drew, she returned to that image. The detective looked into the man. The only clue, the truck footage from the convenience store, the hair under the mattress, the DNA match to the unknown man. He found the truck had been registered to a shell company. A dead end. until the driver's license frame, a little piece found in the trash near the store, yielded a fingerprint. The print matched a petty criminal, long gone from the state and presumed dead by associates. He had a reputation for child endangerment and small-time trafficking. The connection: if he was involved with Evelyn, then Mandy's abandonment wasn't just a disappearance, it was a cover for something far darker. Investigators dug into Andrea Simmons, the original social worker. Her records were missing. Her office cleared out 6 months ago. She'd resigned before her work on the report closed. Her phone line went dead. Evelyn had told her social worker the same weekend she rented the storage unit. The timeline screamed: social worker flagged issue, Evelyn rents unit, Evelyn disappears. Someone had orchestrated this. The momentum built. Then came the bombshell. Evelyn's passport showed exit from the U.S. early that August, not to Mexico, but to the Philippines. Flight logs, subpoenaed under court order, confirmed her arrival. Phone records linked a burner phone used in Manila to the same number that Evelyn had been calling in July. There were no customs prints of Evelyn on the return flight. She had vanished. Or perhaps she had never arrived. When Detective Levin called the embassy in Manila, they found no immigration record of Evelyn. Her name had been changed in transit. Someone had helped her vanish. The folder in the storage unit, the letter, the man in the truck, all pieces of a much larger puzzle. Hours turned into days. Mandy's case now sat at the intersection of abandonment, trafficking, guardianship fraud, and international flight. The media circled. The community asked, why was no one watching? How could a child be left behind so easily? Then came the revelation. DNA testing of the letter's paper fibers indicated they came from a manufacturer that supplied prison system paper. That meant someone incarcerated or with prison access wrote that message. A message so cold, everything happens because of her. She must stay silent. The her couldn't be Mandy, couldn't be Evelyn. It pointed to someone else entirely. Someone important. Someone in power. Someone trusted. The local district attorney's office, after a week of deliberation, charged Evelyn in absentia with child abandonment, guardianship fraud, and conspiracy to facilitate flight. But they also opened a sealed indictment of a federal grand jury for unspecified trafficking violations, to which Evelyn's name had been anonymously added. The community braced for what would come next. In the spring of 2016, nearly 2 years after the initial abandonment, investigators got word courtesy of an international tip line that Evelyn had been seen in Manila under a new identity, Evelyn Reyes, living in a small apartment in Makati, working at a call center. Interpol was engaged. The tip was unverified, but led to surveillance footage that matched Evelyn's distinctive freckles and posture. She was changed. She was quiet. At the same time, Mandy's case moved toward administrative closure in the guardianship court. A new foster family was found for her in Charlotte, North Carolina. She started 4th grade, made cautious friends, but revealed nothing about what happened. The trauma, deep as it was hidden behind polite smiles. Community members in Oakwood Estates held vigils. Neighbors placed teddy bears on the front lawn of the abandoned house. The local paper published a series called Why Mandy Was Left. Many wrote op-eds about system failure. How a child survived on popcorn, fridge hummed, lights flickered, and nobody noticed until the guardian vanished. In the background, federal agents followed the Shell Company truck, traced the man in the convenience store footage to a prison cell in Texas, where he was serving time for kidnapping. They found evidence he had operated a trafficking ring that recruited vulnerable children under fake guardianships. Suddenly, the simple abandonment case exploded into something monstrous. One evening, Detective Levin sat in his car outside the storage unit facility. He watched the doors shut. He thought of Mandy, drawing the faceless man, clutching her rabbit. He thought of the letter, tucked beneath the mattress, the storage box, the shell truck. And he realized the system had failed her not once, but repeatedly. Evelyn, the adults, the state, they all faltered. Then came the twist. In July of 2017, 2 years after Evelyn's disappearance, a forensic archivist at the State Archives discovered a disturbing record buried under decades-old files. The guardianship file for Mandy had been altered. The original paperwork submitted in court was missing. What remained was a newly typed document from just 8 weeks before Evelyn rented the storage unit. The signature on that document matched someone who was not Evelyn, but someone claiming to be Evan Ray. A male name. investigators tracked Evan Ray to a P.O. box in Florida. Turns out, the name was used just once. The envelope had been opened and discarded. It had led nowhere. The real bombshell: DNA testing on the signature page revealed male DNA, and it did not match the man in the truck. It didn't match Evelyn. It matched a previously unidentified individual, someone who appeared in no records, someone the system never caught. That name, Evan Ray, was a fabrication, but the DNA pointed to an actual person, likely within the guardianship industry, someone with access to court filings, someone who orchestrated the takeover. This meant the entire guardianship of Mandy had been trafficked. Evelyn might have been a pawn, or worse, a partner, and the man in the truck might have been the muscle. The shell company, the storage box, the letter, the overseas flight were all distractions. The core truth: a child had been legally transferred into the hands of someone who never should have had her. The twist shattered bridges. The narrative shifted. This was not simply abandonment by a guardian who fled. It was a deliberate institutional betrayal, a trafficking scheme hiding behind the veneer of family care. Aftermath followed. Evelyn was still at large and had become a fugitive on the FBI's child trafficking list. The federal indictment deepened. The guardianship court launched an internal review of how children were assigned guardians, how the state approved sealed documents, and how children could disappear into the system. Many cases similar to Mandy's were found, and reforms were proposed in North Carolina. Mandy's life, too, shifted. She grew older, collecting scars nobody saw. She stayed in foster care, her case a cautionary tale. Every so often, she would ask her new caregivers, "Why did she leave me?" They lacked answers. She would stare at the letter still kept in an evidence envelope and wonder if Evelyn ever regretted it. Sometimes at night she dreamt of the open back door, the shadow in the hallway, the faceless man behind the house. That person still haunted her. In the small town of Oakwood Estates, the house sits empty now. The lawn is unkempt. The porch swing creaks in the wind. Neighbors occasionally glimpse a figure inside, shuffling curtains. Some say Evelyn is back hiding. Others believe she is gone for good. But the trauma remains, not in the walls or the paperwork, but in the hearts of those who watched the system fail. Some stories end with justice. Others end with silence. But this one still whispers through the halls of Oakwood Estates, waiting for someone to listen. And yet, the most unsettling question remains unanswered. Who exactly was Evan Ray? And where did he and his network take Mandy? Because the storage unit box, the shell company truck, the letters, they point toward a deeper web. Beyond Evelyn. Beyond the truck driver. A network of darkness feeding on abandonment, on legal loopholes, on the innocence of children. The investigators believe they are close. But the final piece of the puzzle, the one that ties Mandy's legal transfer to the trafficking ring, has yet to be found. The case is not closed. Not by a long shot. Tune in for part 2 of this story, where we will dive into the hidden network behind the guardianship fraud, trace the footprints of the traffickers, and uncover the chilling fate of those who orchestrated it all. Thank you for watching Cold Case Secrets.